Mic on.
Headset mic. I was just saying I wasn't actually talking to you guys, so it doesn't matter. I was writing a Discord announcement. Connor's playing lo-fi.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings lo-fi. That's what he wants today. Because he thinks it's cozy rainy day music. Personally, I think it makes me less productive because it's relaxing. But we've come to a compromise, and he's playing it. No, I'm kidding. I don't care at all. Nice sweater. Thank you. Why is the rain so cold? I don't know. I hate it. I hate it. Oh! Okay. Here's what this is looking like, guys. I don't like the way this is set up. No, it's fine. Okay, so we need to do Animal Quest for Winnie. Why am I choosing to do Winnie in perhaps the busiest month of my life? I do not know. I don't know. It's because of my toxic need to remain distracted so I don't get anxious and sad. Probably. So, here's what we have so far. This bubble says, who is Winnie? Then we have cows and humans, the beef industry, commercial ag and our planet, why should we care, and recommendations. This is a doozy. Doozy. A lot of tough framing for things people feel strongly about. Yeah. So, the reason this is such a hard topic is because both sides feel so passionate about it. There's the ag industry, which I come from, which is extremely loud and proud. And then there's vegans, vegetarians, people that do not like animal agriculture, who are extremely loud and proud. And so when you're researching things like this, you get very different information and you have to be very careful about sources. I think there's truth to watching stuff from both sides and kind of coming into the middle, but it's just hard to do. Granted, I will give myself the credit of saying that I come from an agriculture background, but I also care a ton about animal welfare and our environment. So perhaps I'm one of the most qualified people to go through and do this presentation. That doesn't make it less scary. So yeah, we're gonna need to do both. He likes that one. Do you have any old notes from that club you started in college? That's a great question. I doubt it. Go in my Cal Poly folder, year 4. Copy of palm oil research. I didn't know I did this in college. Holy shit. I wrote 7 pages on palm oil in college. I didn't know that. Did I do this my senior year or my junior year? And would it have been in one of my ag classes? See, all my freaking classes are labeled like AGC 407. Like, I don't remember what class that was. Here's my senior project. This was bean. My senior project was bean. Okay, this is not helpful. Year 3. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't remember when I did this. Spring quarter. Yeah, I don't see anything. L, file management? That's not the problem. My file management actually goes freaking crazy. Look at this. This is what the problem is. It's beautiful. And it's all broken up into quarters, but then you go into a quarter, and then it just says the names of the classes. Which, like, I don't remember if I put it in one of those or not. Anyway, okay. So I've already put some subsections in here. This is how I usually start Animal Quest, is I, like, write the, put out titles and subtitles. So I have domestication of cattle and cows around the world, just because I think that'd be interesting. Then I have the beef industry. How big is it? Animal welfare. This is not the word that I want to use here. No, I'll leave it. Unless you guys can think of a better word. Just like general, like. Should I just write drama? There's drama. Okay. Commercial ag and our planet. Let's see. This is commercial ag and our planet. And we'll go several topics here. We'll do clear cutting. We'll do water use. Would you talk about the dairy industry too? I don't think I have time in this Animal Quest. I could do 2 on Winnie, because I think the dairy industry would deserve its own entire thing. We don't have anything else that's dairy, right? Ooh. Hold on.
You know this song?
Yes, I know this song.
You like Avatar?
Everybody likes Avatar, Connor.
Are you an Aang or are you an Ong fan?
What the hell is Ong?
That was the live version of the...
I've never seen that.
Thank you for not being an Ong fan.
Dude, Connor, what do you think? Clear cutting water use and methane?
Definitely methane, yeah.
Do you think these are like sufficient for commercial ag on our planet, or should I?
The other thing is the corn needed to feed these guys. Like the
Is that in water use?
usage. I mean, I would say resource
Should I
usage.
say like land and water use?
Yeah. There you go. Perfect.
Commercial ag on our planet. Why should we care? I don't know if I need to put subsections on this. I don't think I do. Recommendations, I also don't think I need subsections. Alright, let's just raw dog a YouTube search right now. Like, I don't even know where to start. No, Satan, I think that needs to be a separate animal quest. Why the fuck? Chat, it is gonna... I know how you're gonna feel about a lot of these sources. We have to, like, start somewhere. Okay, we have to sift. So, my eyes are open as well. Do not panic.
The chart I'm building shows the greenhouse gas emissions from producing 1 kilogram of some common foods. In other words, it shows how much they contribute to global climate change. Most fruits and vegetables are down here with relatively low emissions. Poultry and eggs are a little further up. Pig products are here. Coffee and chocolate are a little higher. But all of these pale in comparison to this food. It's the worst thing we eat when it comes to global warming. This is beef. When you only account for the emissions that go into the processing, transportation, packaging, and selling of a food product, the difference between these foods isn't so great. When you add the emissions from growing and processing food for livestock, you can see that animal products have higher emissions than vegetables. But the real gap comes from these two factors, the emissions associated with the farming process and the impact of land use change. Coffee has such a big footprint because of the fertilizers farmers use to grow it, which emit a lot of the greenhouse gas nitrous oxide. The farming process also accounts for most of the disparity between cow and sheep products and everything else. Cows and sheep have to digest food that most animals can't do as well, like grass and tough plant material. Their stomachs are microbe-rich to help them do that through a process called enteric fermentation. The byproduct of this digestion is methane, a powerful greenhouse gas. Some of those emissions come out this way, but 95% come out the front. If you've never heard one of these animals burp, there's an endless supply of YouTube videos for your viewing pleasure.
Really? That was rude, sir.
Jokes aside though, methane is a huge contributor to climate change. It's the second most emitted greenhouse gas after carbon dioxide, but it traps more heat than carbon dioxide. Its global warming potential over 100 years is 21 times higher. Among human-related activities, enteric fermentation is the biggest contributor to methane emissions globally, more so even than the methane emissions from burning fossil fuels, and it's a big reason why the farming process-related emissions for beef and sheep are so high. The second reason is land use change. Starting in the 1700s, the amount of land developed for humanity's purposes started to skyrocket. Only a tiny amount of this is due to our built environment, like cities, towns, and other infrastructure. A vast majority is for agriculture, and when you divide that up, you see that land for grazing animals far surpasses land for growing crops. Converting all that land to farms to make way for grazing or growing crops releases the carbon that was once stored in trees, other plants, and the soil. By contrast, nuts and citrus fruit and olive oil have negative land use emissions because planting nut and citrus fruit and olive trees is reforesting cropland. But chocolate has a lot of land use emissions because cacao farming results in tropical deforestation in Southeast Asia, Africa, and South America. And grazing animals take up a lot of space compared to crops. 80% of deforestation in the Amazon rainforest, for example, is to make way for cattle ranching. This is how many tons of greenhouse gases per capita we emit through all of our activities. Changing our diet to exclude high-emission foods has the potential to reduce it by 28%, by both reducing emissions and reforesting land. That's more than any other life change we could make. A lot of food emissions are unavoidable. We have to eat. But we do have a choice of what not to eat.
Oh, there's no agenda there. Okay.
Welcome and thank you for joining today's webinar, NOM's Beef 2017 Training. Please note that all participant lines will be muted until the Q&A portions of
Oh my god. Why are they so bad at everything they do, man?
Hi, Hi, I'm Craig Morris. Welcome to my backyard barbecue. Today I'm here for more insights into the USDA grades to help you make your grilling season a success. And now we're talking beef. When you want to know the quality of your beef, just look for the USDA grade shields found right on packages of both fresh and frozen products. These shields tell you that the product meets USDA's high standards for quality and help take the guesswork out of selecting the best products for you and your family. Whether you're grilling or making your favorite dish for a neighborhood picnic, quality and consistency matters. Beef quality is graded for tenderness, juiciness, and flavor. The labels that include prime, choice, and select. My agency, USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service, or AMS, defines the quality.
People Pug, wow.
Antonius Maris subbed for 9 months. Bowling.
Thank you. Young, well-fed beef cattle. Oh, okay. What are the standards? They're in the same place. Okay, this is not of interest to me because it just talks about the quality and not of the way that it's produced. It's just how good the product is. I don't care how good the product is. We should do a whole labels section. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Dude. Yeah, but it's a whole other rabbit hole. Who funds this? Do you see why this is gonna take so long, you guys? Okay, I still don't know. Like, I just can't. Wait. This is good. I feel fine about that. This, I don't know how to trust this website because I can't figure out who they're funded by. No, I know Shrez, but then I looked at Grace's website and it's just a foundation. Okay.
Recently, it seems like cows can't catch a break.
Oh, I know
Our meaty
Shrez,
diet
yeah.
is literally eating up the planet.
It's the worst thing we eat when it comes to global warming. It's beef.
People say we need to eat less beef to save the planet, that cows are polluting the air with their methane-rich burps. They're eating all our food, drinking all our water, and taking all our land that we could be using to grow human food on. When you hear the specifics, it sounds like cows must be bad.
To create 1 kilogram of steak, a cow needs to eat up to 25 kilos of grain. We could nourish an additional 3.5 billion people if we just ate the stuff we feed to animals.
About 3/4 of all the agricultural land in the world is used for livestock.
I found out that 1/4 pound hamburger requires over 660 gallons of water to produce.
The livestock sector is responsible for 15% of global man-made emissions.
Another solution to climate change, we could stop eating animals. And it can be done today.
But are they really giving us the full story? Don't worry, we'll talk about each of these points in detail. But first, let's cut to the chase. What's the environmental impact of not eating meat? Veganism is on the rise, but getting 100% of Americans to go plant-based is unrealistic. So let's be optimistic and say we got 10% of the United States to stop eating meat. Accounting for everything, methane from cow burps, the emissions from animal manure, emissions from transporting and processing meat, and so on, what would be the actual reduction of the United States planet-warming greenhouse gases if 33 million people went totally plant-based? To discuss this, I'm joined here with Professor of Animal Science and Air Quality Specialist at UC Davis, Dr. Frank Mittlerner. By the way, Dr. Mittlerner says, of course, livestock have an environmental impact. In fact, his job is to research ways to reduce livestock's environmental impact.
This is reminding me of something you said that was really surprising to me when I first heard it, that if the entirety of the US was to go vegan for a year, then the reduction in emissions would be like...
the entire US going vegan would be 2.6%. So if everybody were to do 2.6, if 1/10 of that would do it, then it would be 0.26. That's not even measurable, okay? We are talking about changes here that are not even measurable. And take it from a person who measures these things. I measure methane on the ground. I measure it in the air. I measure it from space. I can tell you any change less than 1% is not measurable. Not measurable.
Now hold up, how could the reduction be so low? Well, there's a lot we have to break down. Let's start here. Do cows really take all our water?
And it's not just land resources, but water as well. To end up with 24 hamburger patties, it requires the amount of water you see in this pool.
So this big water footprint that everyone talks about with cows and livestock, where does that water come from?
So the water input that people assign to beef includes, and that's the majority, the so-called green water. And the green water is rainwater. That rainwater would fall on that land where the animals graze, with cattle present and without cattle present.
This guy's an ag professor.
Now, the vast majority of water that goes into a beef animal will go into the beef animal in the form of feed, not in the form of water that they drink, in the form of feed. And guess what happens to that water a few hours after it's ingested? It's urinated out. It's not staying in the animal. It stays in the animal as long as the tea that you drank this morning stayed into your body or inside your body. So that water is not all of a sudden miraculously gone, okay? It is going in and it's coming out. The vast majority of that is rainwater. So to me, it is disingenuous to say, oh, look at all that water that goes into growing cattle. Would we say the same thing about all the water that goes to trees to grow? Of course not.
Just 1/4 pound hamburger takes around 1,650 liters of water to produce.
So, but these people who come up with the statistics of these enormous amounts of water going to beef, they're counting rainwater. They're counting green water.
They did teach me this in college.
So the real worry we have is overusing our freshwater reserves for irrigation. And 70% of the world's freshwater reserves go to irrigating crops. 53% of the groundwater for crops goes to rice, wheat, and cotton. Sure, at 122 liters of non-green water per quarter pound.
This whole, like, where does our water go? The 70% goes to agriculture. I guarantee you, I could Google right now, like, how much water does livestock or animal agriculture use in the US every year? And I bet I could get that number reversed. Like, it would be the opposite statistic.
Beef does use more than, say, rice, which is 90 liters, or bread, which is 55 liters. But think about this. 94.5% of Californian almonds water usage is not green water. That's 1,097 liters per quarter pound, almost 10 times more than beef. Think about that the next time you're ordering an almond milk latte.
It has become almost a tug of war between the people and the almonds.
In the midst of the drought in California, the massively irrigated almond counties are the driest and have seen the biggest decreases in groundwater reserves.
In Chile, the avocado thrives, but only by drinking up the country's scarce water resources.
Also, consider that nutritionists don't just say, a human needs precisely 2 pounds of general food material per day.
There's a full-course meal, donuts and coffee.
We need to think about nutritional requirements when we eat, and beef is way more nutrient-dense, so yeah, 122 liters used to make a quarter pound of beef is not nothing. But you can't compare that to a quarter pound of rice, which only uses 90 liters but provides only 1/5 the protein and much less vitamins and minerals than beef. Also rarely mentioned is that cows also provide highly nutrient-dense organ meats, like liver.
So we don't have enough rice for you, kid.
I'm not saying that we should stop eating rice or almonds to save the planet. Everybody needs to eat, and different people like eating different things. Just if we're going to talk about water, let's be realistic with the numbers and look at the full picture. Now, what about resources? Aren't we wasting so much food on cows that hungry people could eat instead?
In the world, take this, in the world, 84% of all livestock feed, across all species, 84% is non-human edible. 16% of all feed is human edible, but the vast majority of that goes into poultry and pigs, because they are monogastric animals, similarly to humans, okay? The vast majority of what we feed to human livestock throughout the world, the vast majority, well...
Not that that's important, but, like, God.
According to the United Nations, animal agriculture is responsible for nearly 15% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. That's more emissions than all cars, planes, trains, and boats combined. Just in the same way that we need renewable energy so that we can continue lighting our homes without fossil fuels, we also need sustainable animal-free protein sources that can satiate our meat tooth, so to speak, without the need to raise and slaughter animals. The reality is that nearly all meat comes from factory farms, and it is an extremely inefficient way to produce food. Raising animals for food is the leading cause of deforestation, and a huge portion of that is for raising animals or raising crops to feed animals. And it just takes a lot of land to raise animals, because it's not just that land that the animals are physically occupying, it's that you have to grow huge numbers of crops to funnel through these animals who are very inefficient at converting those crops into edible meat. If you eat the crops directly, you can use way less land, and what way less land means that we can store more carbon in the soil, and it means that we can leave more land for wildlife. If you think about walking down a supermarket aisle and you pick up a whole chicken from that supermarket and you put that chicken in your basket, what you should imagine is taking a 1-gallon bottle of water, twisting the cap off, and dumping it onto the floor of the supermarket, and then doing that 1,000 more times. Because that's about how many gallons of water it takes to get one chicken from shell to shelf. Most of this water is irrigation, right? So you're not talking necessarily about extremely thirsty chickens, although of course they do drink water, but you're talking about essentially irrigating all of that corn and soy for growing all the crops to feed the chickens. It's extremely inefficient not only to funnel crops through animals and have those animals converted into flesh, but then you think about all of the enormous resources that are needed to transport those crops all around the country and all around the world. We are cutting down Brazil's rainforest, the Amazon rainforest, in order to provide cropland to grow soy for cattle. Most of those cattle who are consuming the soy aren't living in Brazil, they're living in places like Europe. And so Europe is importing a huge amount of its livestock feed from the Amazon rainforest to feed their cattle so that Europeans can enjoy a high meat diet. Factory farms are great at doing a number of things. Of course, creating climate change and gas emissions, creating animal welfare problems, but also great at creating lots of waste. Lots of waste that can often pollute the local air and waterways. This is one of the reasons, frankly, that you don't see a lot of wealthy communities living around factory farms. You generally see poorer communities living around factory farms, and they are bearing the brunt of all of these problems because you have real serious air contamination issues and water contamination. You're creating a breeding ground for filth and disease. So if we want to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, if we want to reduce the risk of the next pandemic, if we want to prevent wildlife extinction and animal cruelty, what we need to do is enjoy a more plant-based diet, and the meat experiences that we have, we can produce them without the need to raise animals. There's no doubt that there's an explosion of interest in plant-based food. At the same time, meat demand is rising. And that's true in the United States, but it's especially true in places like China and India and Brazil and all the places where it's going to matter the most in the future. Per person meat demand continues to rise. Just like we can use wind and solar and geothermal to replicate what fossil fuels do for us, we can also use animal cells, plant proteins, microbial fermentation to produce meat-like experiences for people while reducing humanity's footprint on the planet.
livestock sector emerges as one of the top 2 or 3 most significant contributors to the most serious environmental problems at every scale, from local to global. There are a few reasons why eating meat is bad for the environment and why we must spread awareness about this issue. Since 1960, we've increased the global meat consumption by 5 times. And sure, you can argue the reason for that fact is the population.
By 2050, the world's population could approach 10 billion. And around 60% more food could be needed to feed everyone.
The environmental impacts of the food system are daunting. It's responsible for about a quarter of all greenhouse gas emissions, it uses about 70% of all freshwater resources, and it occupies about 40% of the Earth's land surface. Food-related emissions could increase to 50% by 2050 and fill up the total emissions budget that we have in order to avoid dangerous levels of climate change.
Interest in vegan food has been booming across the rich world. A major study has put the diet to the test, analysing an imagined scenario in which the world goes vegan by 2050.
If everybody went vegan by 2050, we estimated that the food-related greenhouse gas emissions could be reduced by 3/4.
Cows are the biggest emission contributors. Bugs in their digestive system produce methane, and deforestation for their pasture releases carbon dioxide. These gases warm the planet. If cows were a country, they'd be the 3rd largest greenhouse gas emitter.
I'm a 9th-generation farmer in this area. I grew up on a farm with cows and fattening bulls.
Jaap Korteweg comes from a long line of farmers in the Netherlands.
My goal is to be the biggest butcher in the world. So we do it for meat lovers. But if you don't like meat, don't buy our products.
But he's now a butcher with a difference.
I'm the vegetarian butcher. We are hooked on the taste of meat. So the only way to change it is to develop products with the same experience without an animal. We can produce beef as big as a front door with the right texture of real beef. The equipment we use in our plant-based plant is the same as in a meat factory. The only difference is there is no blood on the floor.
Jaap made the switch to plant-based meat 11 years ago. He now ships to 17 countries with annual sales of 20 million euros.
The ingredients we use are different. We use soy, we use lupin, we use wheat, we use peas.
So when I say the word vegan to you, what do you think of? I'm sure for many of you, you think of vegan. Why can't I just live and let live? I personally have no problem with you being vegan, but can you not force your views?
Why is he so quiet?
For some of you, you might be thinking, oh, no, vegan. I can never be vegan. I love the taste of cheese far too much for that. And some of you might just be confused and thinking, eating meat's the circle of life. And after all, other animals eat other animals, so why can't I? These are a selection of the things that I used to say when someone said the word vegan to me. But I also used to say that vegans are crazy and that no one should ever go vegan. But now I am vegan. And so how on earth did that happen? It's a question I often ask myself, and so to try and understand why it is that I'm now vegan, can we morally justify not being vegan by saying it's our personal choice to consume animal products? Well, interestingly, yes, it is our personal choice to consume animal products.
Who is this guy? A vegan educator, public speaker, and content creator. Christ.
Personal choice to abuse a dog or beat a cat. In essence, what I'm saying is that every action that we make is a choice that we personally choose to make. And so to imply that it's morally justifiable to use animals because it's a personal choice would mean that every action that we as humans can make must also be morally justifiable because every action is a personal choice. To rescue a dog, bring
okay.
a dog, use yourself. No, of course it's not. Because those choices have a victim, someone who suffers negatively because the personal choice.
Connor, what the hell is this?
The victim removes any possibility for moral justification. One of the reasons I went vegan in
you hate it.
The personal choice of the trillions of animals who are killed every single year who have granted their choice, who just like to live their life without human-inflicted exploitation. Remember, animals don't willfully walk once they kill slaughterhouse. They are forced there against their will. Any notion of choice has been removed for them. And so when
Man.
we personal choice as a justification, whose personal choice are we considering other than our own? And if it is a choice, then why would we choose to be cruel? And so we might then think, yes, but the difference is...
Okay. Here's... Someone was like... I don't remember which one of you it was, but someone was like, what are we looking for? I'm starting with, like... I literally typed in beef industry in YouTube. And I'm getting bites of everything and finding the most extreme on both sides and then weeding it out. That's what I'm trying to do right now.
What was Venice Beach before?
And they cried and they yelled while the animals just kind of sat there, calm and quiet. So I learned this lesson with these calm, wonderful animals, that animals are safe, quiet, and to be trusted. And with my parents and their friends screaming and yelling, that humans are loud and terrifying. And so when I was 2 years old, my dad died.
This is a climate scientist that I I like personally.
So science has been warning us about climate change for a really long time. If you've looked at the textbooks, you might have heard of a guy named Arrhenius who talked about climate change back in the 1890s. I was taught in grad school as a guy named Joseph Tyndall in the 1860s. Back in 1853, she first told us how increasing the level of greenhouse gases like CO2 would warm the planet. And boy, did we increase those greenhouse gases on the planet. Told us it would. Solutions. How do we... You'll hear all that, if you go on Twitter and I'm telling you they have the solution, the silver bullet, the thing that'll solve it all. Well, be a little skeptical about that and actually do a little science. Because science can help guide us. It can tell us what might be true, what might be just an assumption, our best guess, and test it against data. And make sure that we actually can really be guided by data, not just hype. So the science tells us we actually have a lot of solutions. And Project Drawdown a few years ago, we went and reviewed about 100 major solutions to climate change and asked a lot of deep questions about them. Like, how big could they be? How effective might they be in the future? Are they actually ready now? And what would they cost? And so we looked at lots of solutions, like around energy and funding, rooftop solar. Yeah, that would work and that would help a lot. Interesting things like food waste would help a lot too. A whole bunch of things, in fact, and built in, let's say, electricity. Finding lots of ways to save electricity. And to make it without carbon better. And in fact, we have a library of about 100 very viable potential. So what we need to do, it's what science hasn't done very well so far. What we've basically done is written a really good food book.
Okay.
Our water, our food, our air, our health, our security, our economy are all connected to...
Okay, you're too quiet. You lose.
With lots of pictures showing you what could be. Doesn't that look delicious? This is great. But what it isn't is a recipe book that actually tells you step by step by step what to do to make that beautiful thing a reality. So that's what we got to do now. Go from a solutions library to something more like a road that shows you not only this is we look at stuff. I keep all the images. Balance this with a little bit of what's called carbon. But first, I want to take you on a little journey. Let's first visit our planet, but at night and from space. It's how dominant that we are dominant. Part of the Brazilians. And deforestation is something we notice a lot of around the tropics. Here also, now with the primeval more like Iowa feed, especially after the mad cow disease scare about a decade ago, where we don't want to feed animals animal protein anymore because that can transmit disease. Instead, we want to feed them more vegetable protein. So soybeans have really exploded, showing how trade and globalization are really responsible for the connections to rainforest and the Amazon. Incredibly strange and interconnected world that we have today. Well, again and again, what we find as we look around the world in our little tour of the world is that landscape after landscape after landscape have been cleared and altered for growing food. How can we change that thing at a global scale? And this is what we found, and it's startling. This map shows the presence of agriculture on planet Earth. The green areas are the areas we use to grow crops, like wheat or soybeans or corn or rice or whatever. The presence of agriculture. On planet Earth. The green areas are the areas we use to grow crops, like wheat or soybeans or corn or rice or whatever. That's 16 million square kilometers worth of land. If you put it all together in one place, it'd be the size of South America. The second area in brown is the world's pastures and rangelands where our animals live. That area is about 30 million square Sahara Desert or Siberia, the Earth's land surface where we find a result flying into air. Irony is it's covered in North America. Back today, during a normal condition to the exact same location.
People pug, wow.
The difference is mainly irrigated
mugs. Thank you.
In Scottsdale. You take your pick. Well, this is a lot of water, and again, we're mining water and using it to grow food. And today, as we travel down further down the Colorado, it dries up completely and no longer flows into the ocean, the Aral Sea. Now, or there's peppers kind of coming down the river through the desert and forms the Great Aral Sea. Well, in the 1950s, the Soviets decided to divert that water to irrigate the desert to grow cotton, believe it or not, in Kazakhstan, to sell cotton to the international markets to bring foreign currency into the Soviet Union. They really needed the money. So you can imagine what happens. You turn off the water supply to the Aral Sea, what's going to happen? Here it is in 1960.
Can we save our planet? Will we continue to have access to water, food, energy, and other ecosystem goods that our planet provides? Each hour, 3 species disappear. Each day, 10,000 people die from water shortage or contamination. 14 billion pounds of garbage are dumped into the ocean every year. Most of it's plastic, and it'll take nearly 1,000 years for it to degrade. And due to global warming, the Arctic may be ice-free, and thousands of cities, including New York City, may be underwater. Now, you've all undoubtedly heard many of these statistics before, and likely, at least so far, you aren't impressed. And yet still, in some sense, these facts turn societal platitudes motivate us. They certainly motivate me, and I, perhaps like many of you, am the typical environmentalist. I gleefully present my refillable cup to the Starbucks barista. I love to shop at Trader Joe's, and I always bring my Go Green bag. And if you're anything like me, I spend 1 to 2 minutes in a fit of confusion trying to recycle the fork, bowl, napkin, and food that constitutes my on my eco-friendly day. And you'd be right, I could do a lot more. I could compost, and I don't, and save water by sharing with a friend or even in a track. Undoubtedly, we all could do more. A vegan. Did you feel that? You did. One word, and everyone gets a little bit nervous. You can be honest with me. This is TEDx. It's a safe space. You feel a little awkward. Why? Because I'm a vegan, and presumably many of you are not? What is that about? Well, we've all had that conversation before. You're out to dinner with a friend, and while the person in front of you may not look like this, or like this, now, back at dinner, the vegan likely feels to kindly acknowledge that reconciling gesture and attempt to very quickly move the conversation along to a more unifying topic. And yet, you still feel whatever it is you or your neighbor might be feeling right now. A tinge of nervousness, and somehow, our perception of... I'm sorry to all the vegans in the room who have lost one of their own. And to the rest of you, well, you can safely take a deep sigh of relief knowing that I'm a carnivore just like you. But whatever connotations are in the word vegan, and the experiences those connotations create in our mind, I am absolutely fascinated by diversity. Now, semantics aside for just a moment, we all know that vegans and vegetarians, the modern-day pioneers from staying for meat, are onto something, even if we ourselves choose to eat eggs and meat. We know our planet is in trouble, and we know that meat production, from the clearing of land and trees to the transportation of these products, accounts for nearly 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions. 20%. That is why a vegetarian's footprint is nearly half that of a meat lover's. And for a vegan, it's even lower.
6 different numbers.
And we also know that meat production requires a lot of water. Producing just 1 pound of meat protein requires 10 times the amount of water as producing 1 pound of grain protein. It's a lot of water. And we also know, perhaps most morally salient, that due to factory farming, that animals are not treated very well. They're not. And they are incredibly smart and experience pain just like us. So as we look into the eyes of this very adorable baby pig, we have to ask ourselves, why do over 90% of Americans continue to eat meat? Bacon. Bacon is the reason we eat meat. For many, the mere smell of bacon buffalo wing that you... Well, on the one hand, we know that meat gives us a reason. Plus, either to indulge or to make a more restrained decision, we could simply eat less meat and more fruits and vegetables. That seems simple enough. And as many have suggested, if we simply followed a meatless Monday diet, whereby we abstain from eating meat on Mondays, we'd have 1 billion vegetarians overnight. And that would be huge. But what is a person who eats less meat? They may not be a vegetarian or a vegan, or even on any particular diet. Where do they fall along this spectrum? Well, I discovered that there are a few words, each with their own connotations, to describe a person who eats less meat. You could say, I'm a semi-vegetarian. I sometimes eat meat, full about it. Let's explain to you that about it, and more different. It's weak, and it's inconsistent. And as we know from advances in cognitive science, the brain does not do well with inconsistencies. It loves false dichotomies and neat compartmentalizations. And we can see how this plays out. 1 minute, you're a noble lover of all forms of life. And the next, you're a ravenous animal, or at least perceptions of who we are. And that these perceptions matter. These seemingly innocuous labels to describe our eating. Consider a related example. Climate change versus global warming. They conjure with greater public understanding, more intense worries and negative reactions than climate change. That is why I try to use the phrase global warming more than climate change. So we see the same type of problem with words like flexitarian and semi-vegetarians, we have individuals, chickens, pigs, lambs, and seafood. It is my hope that this word is reducitarian, and that it can. How many of you and vegetarian friends, reducitarianism still enjoy the taste of meat with more fruits and veggies? Reducitarians live longer, healthier, and happier lives. They skip eating meat for dinner. They had it for lunch, or simply eat meat in the environment, but farm animals.
It's fine. The concept is good.
This is a difficult but important realization. Not everyone is able or willing to follow a completely vegetarian diet. A Gallup poll conducted in 2012 asked a diverse group of Americans the following question: in terms of your eating preference, do you consider yourself to be a vegetarian or not? How would you respond? What was so interesting, another percentage is even lower. A separate state when they were asked to recall their diet. These individuals were not vegetarians or vegans. This used to happen to me. All eggs and pancakes. Jewish, friendly. This matters to the environment. Categorical for moral superiority. It's exhausting, and as the data suggests, largely unproductive.
Okay. Well, we've made a lot of progress here, folks. That's important.
do that.
It's okay.
Just have ChatGPT do a summary for you.
No.
I read 20 papers, and ChatGPT got 99% of them correct. I asked him to summarize it afterwards about leucism.
So
you about to print it?
Yeah.
It's cringy, yeah.
Why? I want to read it.
Can't read it on the screen?
No.
No.
People Pug, wow.
Judging you.
All right. Let's start. Let's start here. Some reading for the plane on my way to Massachusetts. So fun. $10,000 ago. You know what's gonna unbreak my brain right now, guys? Stickers. Yay! Witty. Okay, guys, we wrote something down. How you feeling? I feel pretty good. What? Oh! Wait, 250,000 years ago? What do you mean? What? How long ago is this? Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm sticking with 10,000. gonna be honest, it doesn't need to be this serious. It really doesn't.
Politicians, economists, lots of people these days are talking about the wealth gap between the Charles.
Archaeologist Timothy Kohler at Washington State University says studying the ancient world can provide insights about current affairs.
That's what's so fun about it. Why?
Here's what we're gonna do, because this slide doesn't really matter. This is not the important part of the presentation. We're gonna center this, we're gonna italicize it, and then it's gonna be the only text on this. On this bit. And I'm just gonna show examples of what people use cows for. Great. People Pug, wow.
Ogfrag out resubbed for 3 months. Fluffy cow.
Thank you.
I just put the world's strongest water gun on the wish list for goat defense.
How is it gonna hurt them?
I hope so.
Is it like a power washer?
It's called the Spira 3.
Okay.
I don't know. Your RMA sent it to us. Or sent it to me.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fucked up. He's in trouble. Just looking for some stupid stock image. That'll do. Where are we getting all these children from? And why are their images also low quality? Camera placement. Yeah, I always make it too. Never give myself enough space. Okay. I feel fine about this. I'm just gonna be like, they've been around a long time. Lots of different uses, from dairy to pets to labor to beef. I think it's fine. I'm not doing this. I'm just not gonna talk about it. It's not necessary. Oh, yeah, fuck. Now it feels like I should put it in here. Good lord, woman. I think I'm just gonna cut it. I can just leave it like this. Oh, this is Temple Grandin. Yeah, that's a whole thing. The World Health Organization. I don't just want... Oh, God. I don't just want in the U.S. It's just like I can't take any of these numbers. I don't know what to do. Maybe I can take one of these numbers. I don't want the American beef sector. Why is this? There's nothing about like the scale of the beef industry. This is an American entity. 96. Oh! No, it's not. Thanks. Oh, I was already here now. Why did I exit out of that one? Because I thought it was a US entity. What? numbers are so hard to read. I wish they were like laid out in a way that you could visualize. Promising. Oh Lord. Oh my God. Oh my God. People Pog, wow.
Divna33 resubbed for 16 months. Alveus dance Alveus cheer.
Thank you. Hello. Hmm. Interesting. This is okay. This is good. Yoink. Hmm. The hell is that? What is that? What is this? Methane. Oh. That's why this is so large. I see. Guys, I have terrible news. I think I need to print this. These are the same. Well, they're not. Hmm. It's nice that they put this one in here. I'm not printing this. Hold on, I need to go back and find that graph that I liked. Where'd it go?
Can I ask you in chat a non-Alveus question?
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to send something nice to Crow for their staff.
Yeah, okay.
Edible Arrangements doesn't really deliver out there. Do you have any other ideas? I've looked up cookie places, and I don't know if there's any good, like, cookie
Tiffany's
delivery.
is good.
What's Tiffany's?
It's a cookie delivery thing. Crumble cookies is fine. It's expensive and overrated. Drought.
Tiffany's also doesn't
People Pug, wow.
deliver their main line out there.
You could check Crumble. Thank you for the sub. Briber. Alright. We do have, yeah, so I said Tiffany's or Tiff's Treats in Austin. We do have it in Austin, but apparently they don't have it there. Where does this need to go? This needs to go in my methane section. Not in here. Yeah, okay. People Pug, wow.
Jobis_. Resubbed for 3 months. What kind of commercial ag is this focused on? I happen to work on ag industry software with a focus on emissions tracking in poultry.
We're doing beef industry right now. But that's cool. Thank you for the 3 months.
This film is about methane, a greenhouse gas. Greenhouse gases have a bad name, but are actually a natural phenomenon. They're not bad or dangerous. In fact, they're much needed. Just like a greenhouse keeps the warmth of the sun inside, greenhouse gases do the same with the warmth that reaches the earth. We call this the greenhouse effect. This is fortunate because without this greenhouse effect, the world would be ice and ice cold. But as with many things, too much is not always good. With too many greenhouse gases, the heat of the sun, due to a thick blanket of gases, is less able to return to space and thus remains on Earth. We call this the enhanced greenhouse effect. This effect has increased the Earth's temperature over the past 50 years. The 3 main greenhouse gases that cause this increase are carbon dioxide, or CO2, nitrous oxide, and methane. CO2 is the most popular among the 3 and accounts for about 70% of the greenhouse effect. CO2 has a natural cycle between humans, animals, and plants. You probably know people and animals exhale CO2, plants absorb it. However, CO2 released from fossil fuels is something different. These come on top of the natural cycle, which creates a large surplus. CO2 remains in the atmosphere for thousands of years. Thus, we don't just pass it on to our grandchildren, but also our well, you get the idea. The solution? to reduce emissions. Nitrous oxide is less known. One of the ways nitrous oxide is released is by the use of nitrogen as fertilizer in the agricultural sector. As a greenhouse gas, it is almost 300 times as powerful as CO2 and is responsible for about 7% of the greenhouse effect. The breakdown of nitrous oxide also takes a very long time, potentially hundreds of years. The solution? To reduce emissions. Lastly, methane. Methane is mainly released by livestock farming, the cultivation of rice, landfill, and the extraction of natural gas. As a greenhouse gas, methane is about 34 times stronger than CO2 and is responsible for about 20% of the greenhouse effect. That's a significant contribution.
I don't like this video. It's not what I'm looking for. I want like a little, like one of these animated shorts about how methane works with cows, like with ruminants.
When you think about stuff that contributes to climate change, you might picture huge smokestacks or traffic in Los Angeles or something that generally looks dirty. But how about a huge field full of big-eyed, adorable grazing cows? It might sound a little silly, but when you get enough cows in one place, they burp and exhale a lot of methane, a greenhouse gas even better at trapping heat than carbon dioxide. In fact, if cows were a country, that nation would be one of the biggest methane producers in the world, if not the biggest. One way to reduce this is to just eat less meat and dairy, and there will be fewer cows created. But while that is a great option, it's not likely that most people will go vegan anytime soon. So researchers are turning to other solutions, and they're easier to implement than you might think. One option is to change what cows eat. Right now, the average cow mainly eats fibers
Hank.
We're told that cows are a big part of the climate problem. But are they really? It's true that cows emit methane, a strong greenhouse gas. But whereas CO2 from burning fossil fuels stays in the atmosphere for potentially 1,000 years, methane stays for around 12 years before it breaks down. So let's look at what part cows play in that. Cows eat grass, and methane is released when they belch, and also from their manure. After 12 years or so, that methane breaks down into natural or biogenic CO2 in water. The grass absorbs the CO2 through photosynthesis and
Australian good meat, right? I was like, why is this so generous? I'm already so sick of this, man. The truth about cows, methane, and the environment from Carnivore MD. Great.
Half of New Zealand's carbon emissions come from livestock, most of which is methane.
Did you know that methane produced by dairy cows is a short-lived gas which forms part of a natural cycle? In this cycle, CO2 is removed from the atmosphere by plants, which are then eaten by cows. Through their digestion, cows produce methane. Over about 10 years, this methane naturally breaks down into CO2 and other compounds. Science tells us that provided the cycle remains balanced, the stable production of methane should not contribute to increased global warming.
Who is this now? Dairy UK.
Cows are a big part of our diet in the U.S. Americans eat billions of pounds of beef each year. And cows, well, they burp a lot. And those burps are mostly methane, which is a greenhouse gas 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide. According to 2019 data from the Environmental Protection Agency, the United States emitted 6.6 billion metric tons of greenhouse gases, much better at trapping heat in the atmosphere. Climate scientists say methane emits 100 countries agree to reduce agriculture and methane is one. And as a result, in the United States, greenhouse gas emissions are monitored by the EPA. Out of all U.S.
That's like so unimportant. This guy again. Oh, nice set range. I didn't realize they came out today. I know it was really like not formal, but ruminant. Ruminant. I feel like this is not it.
Unlike humans, all grass-eating animals have a special stomach.
That's awful.
Grass consumed by an animal is crushed into pulp in the mouth. It is also moistened by saliva and moved to the rumen by peristalsis of the esophagus. In the rumen, crushed food is mixed with symbiotic microorganisms that break down cellulose.
I'm gonna have to draw this, aren't I?
To understand how we can better feed cows, it is key to having a basic understanding of how the rumen actually works. So I've drawn up a rough rumen. You can see that the cow's gut consists of 4 main compartments, with the rumen being the largest compartment. It feeds directly into the reticulum. So the reticulum is actually still part of the same chamber as the rumen, but performs slightly specialised role. The reticulum feeds into the omasum, which then feeds through to the abomasum.
Unlike humans, all grass-eating animals have a special stomach with 4 chambers, namely rumen, reticulum, omasum and abomasum. Let's see the process of digestion in grass-eating animals. The animals quickly swallow the grass and store it in rumen, the first chamber of the stomach. In the rumen, the food gets partially digested. The partially digested food is called cud. The cud is pushed into the reticulum, the second chamber of the stomach, and from here it is sent back into the mouth for thorough chewing. The process of chewing the cud is called rumination, and animals which chew the cud are called ruminants. The rechewed food is swallowed and sent into the omasum, the third and the smallest chamber of the stomach, to absorb excess water from the food. In the omasum, the food is broken down to even smaller pieces. This is then sent to the last chamber, abomasum, which is also called the true stomach. The digested food then goes into the small intestine, where absorption of nutrients takes place. A large sac-like structure called cecum, present between the small intestine and large intestine, also contain bacteria that help in the digestion of cellulose, a carbohydrate that is present in grass. So, you now know why cattle keep chewing all the time.
Hello there, and welcome to today's lesson. My name is Mark Chimes, and this here is Chanel. Weeds, antelope, buck, camels, yaks, llamas, alpacas are all examples of ruminants. But today we will be focusing on the cow. All the animals that have 4 stomachs and chew cud are known as ruminants, and their way of digesting is quite unique. This is because they cannot actually digest grass. Instead, they use microorganisms such as bacteria, yeasts, fungi, and viruses to digest the lignin and fibers in the grass on their behalf. These microorganisms ferment the grass and use the breakdown products as building blocks to produce proteins, fats, and starches that are used in their cell walls to produce even more microorganisms. A cow can produce up to 6 kilograms of microorganisms in a day. The cow, in turn, digests the microorganisms to get its supply of proteins, fats, and starches. Here, we have a 3D model of a cow. Inside is the ruminant stomach. It consists of 4 parts: the rumen, the reticulum, the omasum, and the abomasum. The digestion process works as follows. First, the cow chews and swallows the grass, which ends up in the largest of the 4 stomachs, called the rumen. Here, digested and used by the cow. burping is eructation. So-called because the inner lining of the reticulum is folded into a reticulated pattern. The remaining process of reverse and ruminants. The inner lining of the omasum is folded into lines the food into finer parts of the stomach, called secretes stomach acid that are absorbed to be used by the cow for energy, growth, reproduction, and milk production. Therefore, when you feed a cow, it is important to remember that you are not feeding the cow, but the microorganisms inside the cow.
Hey there, I'm Janelle Chimes, the animator of this video. I just want one with arrows. Accurate arrows. Dog shit. Huh? Connor. Cows can get more nutrients out of grass than we can because of the microbes that they have in their stomach, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the cell wall that like we struggle to break down, but the bacteria is able to break it down. Have you ever seen the ports in the cows?
Yeah.
I've helped put one of those in before. Wicked. Have you ever
Microbes.
stuck your hand in one?
No.
It's so warm and it smells. Imagine beetles, like, what is it, a cud? Imagine that, but like 10 times stinkier.
That's so gross.
And warm and hot right there in your face. It's great. Have you ever stuck your hand up a cow's butt before?
No.
Also an exhilarating time. Check to see if it's pregnant. Get in there, and then you flick around to find the ligament. If it has a ligament, then it's pregnant.
Where does it?
What?
I don't know.
Alexa, pause.
Why isn't there a cecum in this drawing? What the fuck? There's cecum right here. I'm pissed. Goodbye. Shit. People pog, wow.
Manatius resubbed for 2 months.
Thank you for
Maya
the-
Henote Learning.
Thank you for the 2 months. Thank you. Alright. It goes rumen, reticulum, omasum, abomasum, cecum. No, small intestine. Cecum. Large intestine. Yummy grass. Grass goes into the esophagus, into the rumen, then goes into the reticulum, then goes back up the esophagus to be rechewed as cud, then goes back down into the... I forgot the word. And goes back down into the omasum, and then goes into the abomasum, and then goes into the small intestine, and then goes into the cecum, then goes into the large intestine, and then is expelled as manure. Okay. So, I know that seems a little like we're not doing an anatomy lesson here, you know? But I think it's important for people to understand why we get so much more out of animal protein than we do eating grass. You know? And why that's the case. Why it's such a valuable protein. They have microbes that we do not. They can extract more nutrients from grass than we can. Where'd your cardboard go, Connor?
I'm too lazy. This is actually not that cool.
Okay. Pog, wow.
Kaoron resubbed for 10 months. Cow sorry PLZ.
Thank you, Celeron. So, put this in the beef industry, and then this is where I'll talk about Pog, wow.
A 2020 Civixy resubbed for 3 months.
Thank you for the sub. You stay there. So I'll talk here about the way that their digestive system works.
Is this enough silicone?
Yeah, I think so. No, Farron! No, not this presentation. I need to do another one if I want to talk about the dairy industry. There's way too much for the beef industry. I really wish there was like a video of this. You'd think that there would be. What if I looked up?
Can you give me over a sec?
If there's something stupid like this. This is so stupid.
Thanks to CuriosityStream for supporting PBS Digital Studios. If you grew up in suburbia like me, you might not have ever considered the fact that cows are pretty gassy creatures. Just ask the German farmer who in 2014 had to deal with a slight exploding shed problem thanks to his dairy cattle's burps. Turns out the thing that exploded was methane, aka the natural gas you might use to cook your food. And Bessie over here can belch up something like 200 to 600 liters of stuff every single day. Methane is a product of the crazy digestive system cows have with 4 stomachs. Stomach number 1 is called the rumen, and it's home to a microbe zoo. From protozoans to archaeans, you can find practically every major kind of life in there. Why? Cellulose, the carbohydrate that makes plants tough and fibrous, is technically impossible for the cow to digest on its own, which is why it needs the help of all those little microbe friends. Some of them take the cellulose and break it down into less complex molecules that the cows can then digest. The microbes release hydrogen gas and carbon dioxide as waste products. That hydrogen gas, if it were allowed to build up, could interfere with further digestion. So another group of microbes called methanogens take the hydrogen, react it with the carbon dioxide, and produce methane. The cow can't use the methane, so it just burps it out. Improperly ventilated barns aside, the real reason to be worried about cow burps is that the methane is a nasty greenhouse gas. Over a period of 100 years, 1 kilogram of methane could potentially warm the earth about 28 times as much as a kilogram of carbon dioxide. And cows, along with other livestock, emit many, many kilograms of methane from their burps. About this many in 2007. That's enough to make up about 7% of all greenhouse gases emitted by human activities. The planet is paying a high price for our burgers and shakes. So what can we do to save us from ourselves? Well, there are a couple of options. Either cut down the amount of methane the cows produce in the first place, or find a way to capture and use it. People are experimenting with adorable little backpacks to collect cows' gassy emissions, but it's probably more efficient to stop the burps in the first place. And scientists have tried pretty much everything with mixed results. One approach has been to vaccinate the cows against their own gut microbes, persuading their immune system to straight up murder those methanogens. Researchers have also supplemented cows' feed with essential oils like garlic, peppermint, and eucalyptus to aid their digestion. And because the amount of methane a cow produces seems to be inherited, some researchers are on the hunt for a breeding fix.
Cows burp and fart. A lot. And it's impacting climate change. Each of Earth's 1.6 billion cows releases about 100 kilograms of methane every year. This might not sound like much, but methane's effect on the climate is 23 times more than carbon dioxide. Methane traps in the heat of the sun and makes the whole planet warmer. So each cow's emissions are about the same as burning 1,000 liters of petrol every year. Cow.
Siberian tundra, hills in the deep ocean, and cow farts have in common? Well, you might not be an expert on all of these things, but you're probably aware of climate change. When someone says global warming, you might think of images like these, factories and vehicles that emit pollution and carbon dioxide. But actually, that's not the whole picture. What about cows? Livestock emissions may even contribute more to climate change than car emissions. They're powerful because they're not composed of carbon dioxide, but of a different greenhouse gas, methane. So how do these greenhouse gases work? Well, when sunlight hits the Earth, part of it is absorbed and re-emitted as invisible infrared light into space. Greenhouse gases, like CO2 molecules in the Earth's atmosphere, absorb some of the energy and then re-emit it, keeping the Earth at a comfortable temperature for life as we know it. With more CO2 in the atmosphere, more energy is absorbed and back on Earth. However, CO2 can only absorb some frequencies of energy, and so each new CO2 molecule has less of an additional effect. There's just so much energy that has already been captured. On the other hand, methane absorbs different frequencies than CO2. Adding just a little bit of methane to the atmosphere suddenly has a great effect because it can catch some range of energy that was missed by the thick layers of CO2 already in the atmosphere. So where does all this methane come from? Under high pressures and cold temperatures, water molecules trap these methane molecules and create a sort of chemical cage around them called a clathrate. As temperatures rise, these clathrate cages become unstable and break into water and methane gas. These clathrates are found in the deep ocean where there is high water pressure. However, as climate changes, these solid methane deposits expand into gas, forming bulges in the ocean ground. These hills grow and burst, releasing methane bubbles through the ocean and into the atmosphere. Just 1 cubic meter of clathrate can release 164 cubic meters of free gas. Now that's a lot of methane. Furthermore, large deposits of frozen organic material are located under the Siberian tundra. This organic material contains methane like a clathrate. With rising temperatures,
talk
the
about
permafrost will melt,
cows?
releasing methane gas along with carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. But why worry about methane? What about forest loss, rising ocean levels, energy needs? And what about the apocalypse? Engineers are hard at work on ideas such as generating clean energy from excess methane in factories and landfills, oceans and farms.
They
We need more
barely-
great minds working on solving this problem. We need writers, activists, and members of our Earth community to raise awareness of these concerns. Will you take action? When someone says global vehicles that emit pollution and carbon dioxide. But actually, that's not the whole picture. What about cows? Livestock emissions may even contribute more to climate change than car emissions. They're powerful because they're not composed of carbon dioxide.
I know you're way too danks. You want to mute the mic real quick?
No.
Incoming way too danks, chat.
Incoming way too dank chat.
Thanks.
Mm.
You look like you're having a miserable time over there.
Mm.
Cow burps signal the end of a marvelous microbial process. Cattle have roomy guts chock full of microbes that help them digest just about anything, including hard-to-break-down plant fibers. When a cow munches on grass or hay, that plant material winds up in part of the stomach called the rumen. It's basically a natural fermentation vat. There, some microbes slice and dice
Rage.
sugars into smaller pieces, like hydrogen and carbon dioxide. Elsewhere in the rumen, a group of ancient microbes called methanogens soak up that hydrogen, leaving nutrients for the cow, plus the gas methane. Cows release that methane into the air with a healthy belch. Unfortunately, methane is a greenhouse gas that's really good at heating up
Sorry,
Earth's atmosphere.
Shrez.
A year of one cow's burps has the environmental fallout of 3 cross-country road trips from New York to LA. All that gas is cause for concern. So scientists are designing vaccines, selectively breeding cows, changing up cattle feed recipes, and using special machines to measure cows' methane output. All in hopes that one day less burpy bovines will graze greener pastures.
Give up, dude.
Including hard-to-break-down plant fibers. When a cow munches on grass or hay, that plant material winds up in part of the stomach called the rumen. It's basically a natural fermentation vat. There, some microbes slice and dice big plant sugars into smaller pieces, like hydrogen and carbon dioxide. Elsewhere in the rumen, a group of ancient microbes called methanogens soak up that hydrogen, leaving nutrients for the cow, plus the gas methane. Cows release that methane into the air with a healthy belch.
A 163 views. This could be the one.
climate crisis, but we could do something.
All global emissions, 14.5% is from livestock, and the majority of that is in the form of methane. Methane is about 28 times more potent than carbon dioxide in trapping heat, but methane does not stay in the atmosphere for too long. The average is about 12.4 years, but carbon dioxide, it stays in the atmosphere for thousands of years.
Currently, we have 1.5 billion cows on the planet, and despite all these beef and dairy alternatives coming to the market, the beef and dairy industry is still forecast to grow significantly over the next few decades, and also many of the developing markets' populations moving from cereal-based diets to protein-based diets. So we're going to be with cattle for quite a long time to come. Agriculture is one of the top 3 contributors to greenhouse gases, and enteric fermentation, i.e. the production of methane from the cows and sheep and goats, is the largest contributor to that. Together they emit 5 gigatons of CO2 equivalent.
In order to be able to keep the temperature down between 1.5 to 2 degrees centigrade, we have to target those gases that are very potent while they are in the atmosphere as well. So it's really important for us to be able to reduce methane in the short term. And if you are going to try to reduce methane emissions, then you have to look at the way that methane is being produced. Methane is a natural byproduct of the digestion and fermentation that's going on within the animal's gut. The methanogens, microbes that reside in the gut of the animal, they take the hydrogen that's being produced by other microbes in the breakdown of fiber in particular, and their byproduct is methane. The cow can belch out the methane so that the amount of gases within the gut remains low.
In process, unfortunately, the cow produces a lot of methane. We now need to find a way to reduce that methane and then enlist the cows to help us cool the planet. Let's see how we can help those cows reduce that output and reduce that methane level.
You guys having fun?
What is the greenhouse effect? Earth is a comfortable place for living things. It's just the right temperature for plants and animals, including humans, to thrive. Why is Earth so special? Well, one reason is the greenhouse effect. A greenhouse is a building with glass walls and a glass roof. The clear glass allows sunlight to shine into the greenhouse while also trapping the sun's heat.
I wasn't paying attention.
greenhouse effect. Earth is a comfortable place for living things. It's just the right temperature for plants and animals, including humans, to thrive. Why is Earth so special? Well, one reason is the greenhouse effect. A greenhouse is a building with glass walls and a glass roof. The clear glass allows sunlight to shine into the greenhouse while also trapping the sun's heat inside. This is how a greenhouse keeps plants warm even at night and in the winter. The greenhouse effect keeps Earth warm in pretty much the same way. Earth isn't surrounded by glass, but it is surrounded by a jacket of gases called the atmosphere. In the daytime, the sun shines through the atmosphere, warming Earth's surface. After the sun goes down, Earth's surface cools. This releases heat back into the air, but some of that heat is trapped by the gases in the atmosphere. These heat-trapping gases are called greenhouse gases. Carbon dioxide, water vapor, and methane are all examples of greenhouse gases. Earth needs a balance of greenhouse gases to maintain just the right temperature for living things. But some human activities are changing Earth's natural greenhouse effect. For example, burning fossil fuels like coal and oil releases more carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. These extra greenhouse gases can cause the atmosphere to trap more and more heat, leading to a warmer Earth. NASA satellites are constantly measuring the gases in our atmosphere from space. They've observed increases in the amounts of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. The information from NASA satellites can help scientists figure out where greenhouse gases are coming from and how they are ending up in our atmosphere. This information will help us better understand the impact that greenhouse gases have on our climate, and help us better understand this very special greenhouse that we call home. Find out more about our Earth at NASA Climate Kids.
Alright. Incredible. Amazing. What day and time do we fly out? I sent you our flight info on Discord.
Yeah, you screenshot it.
If I was in a better mood today, I would actually answer that question, but I cannot be fucked. Go find it. Sorry, Float. He goes, well, why are you not a human calendar? Well, why don't you just suck my dick? Can I flip this? I don't think I can. Chat, I have to make a call.
Ooh, the smell, the smelly smell, it smells.
It's back.
What is the...
What do you think?
I think that if I ever eat spaghetti, you will see me fry the ugliest fry. Toast. My dear.
Alright, we got a lot of work to do. A lot. I gotta go make a call though. Switching back to pasture. And I need to go outside.
Sorry.
No, not because of the smell. I just am losing my mind.